Perhaps you or someone you know has had an abortion. Well, you're not alone. According to Haddad and Noor, from their research article, Unsafe Abortion, Unnecessary Maternity Deaths for the National Institute of Health, around the world, there are approximately 42 million women who seek abortions. Unfortunately, 20 million of those women have unsafe abortions. And of those 20 million women, about 70,000 women die. And of the 5 million women who do survive unsafe abortions, they go on to have long-term effects, negative effects on the health because of the unsafe abortions. Today, I'm going to try to convince you that legal, safe, and accessible abortion is a necessity in life. I will define terms, talk about the safety, timing, and statistics of abortion, touch on why some women might seek abortions, a brief discussion about the opposing argument against abortion, and I will finally end with my rebuttal that abortions will happen even if they are illegal. So to begin, I will define terms for you. Pregnancy. How long does a pregnancy last? A pregnancy lasts 280 days or 40 weeks. And what is a first trimester, second trimester, and third trimester? The first trimester lasts from week 1 to week 12. The second trimester lasts from week 13 to week 28. And the third trimester is from week 29 to week 40. And what is an abortion? According to the National Library of Medicine and Health, abortion is a procedure to end a pregnancy. A trained health official is there to use medicine or surgery to take the fetus or embryo and the placenta out of the uterus. Now, during my introduction, I mentioned unsafe abortion. So what does the term unsafe abortion mean? According to Noor and Haddad, and their article Unsafe Abortions that I used in my introduction, their definition of unsafe abortion is a procedure to terminate a pregnancy, except that the procedure is done by people who lack the necessary skills or the environment lacks the necessary minimal standards, or both. So now that I've set some terms for you, I will talk about the safety, the timing, and the statistics of abortions. So to begin, the safety of abortions. According to the National Institute of Medicine, Technology, or Engineering and Medicine, legal abortions in the U.S. are safe and complications are very rare. As for the timing of abortions, according to the National Institute of Health, more than 90% of abortions take place before week 13. Less than 8% take place before week 20, and a little over 1% take place after week 28. Now, as for the statistics of abortion, according to the Center for Disease Control and their abortion surveillance, about 11.8 women out of 1,000 women seek abortions between the ages of 15 and 44, and 188 babies are aborted per 10,000 babies born. That means for every 10 babies born, less than 2 babies are aborted. And as you can see by the statistics, abortion is quite safe. The timing is usually during the early stages, and it doesn't take place as much as you might think. Now, I will talk about why some women might try to seek abortions. Well, it might have to do with the medical conditions of the mother. Sometimes the mother might have medical conditions where if she continues the pregnancy, it might pose a danger to her health. Other times, unfortunately, the baby has a medical condition. Sometimes there are babies who develop in their embryo without lungs. And when the parents find this out, they have two options. the mother can carry the baby to full term, the full 40 weeks, and after giving birth to her baby, she can watch her baby suffocate to death. Or she can be allowed to have an abortion and then start the healing process and coping process. Which is more compassionate, do you think? Or there are instances where the babies die inside of the womb. And when the mother finds this out, she seemingly has two choices. She can carry the baby the full 40 weeks, knowing every single day that her baby inside of herself is dead, and that when she gives birth to her baby, her child will be born dead. Or she can be given the option of abortion so that she can lay the baby to rest and that she can start healing. In a real-life example, Kate Smith from CBS News reported that in Ohio, there was an 11-year-old girl who was raped repeatedly by a 26-year-old male. So she was she is allowed to have an abortion for now, but Ohio State has passed a legislation in April that hasn't gone into effect yet, but if it were to get into effect, it wouldn't allow women to have abortions, even in the case of rape or incest. So, what do you think? Should an 11-year-old child be forced to have a baby? Because state legislation tells her that no, you have to have the child of your rapist. But on the other side of the argument, there are those who want to protect unborn life. Kate Smith from CBS News, the same person that I talked about for the 11-year-old girl, in the same article, she also mentioned Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, who supported and signed the legislation in April because he wanted the government to protect life from beginning to the end, and that the function of the government should be to protect those who are vulnerable and those who don't have a voice. I think that the function of the government should be to protect women from having to die unnecessary deaths. So I will talk about what happened if you were to have an illegal abortion. Around the world, there are women who have to take illegal abortions. For example, Dr. Kumar, who works with the Doctors Without Borders, she went to Lesotho, a small country inside South Africa, where she was in the maternity ward, and she witnessed women and girls having done illegal abortions who were sick and ill. For example, an 18-year-old girl came, and she had septic infection all over her body. She was very sick. Her fever was very high, and she was in and out of consciousness. When the medical practitioners examined her, they found sticks and leaves inside her vagina. It was very clear that she had tried to do abortion at home, but it had gone wrong, and she was now very ill. Should women and girls have to put sticks and twigs up their vagina in order to induce abortion? The 18-year-old girl was very lucky to be in good hands and to live. However, not all women are lucky enough to live. The National Institute of Health reports that around the world, 25 women in countries where there are restrictive or abortion laws, 25 women out of 1,000 have to go through unsafe abortion practices. And then 35 women out of 1,000 women, because of those unsafe abortion practices, die each year. Should women have to die because they want to terminate their pregnancy? I don't think they should have to die. So far, I think that instead of making abortions illegal, we should make more make other options like make abortions legal, because even if they are illegal, they will happen, and when they do happen, the consequences will be very dire for women. In conclusion, after having defined terms, touched on the safety, timing, statistics of abortion, why some women seek abortion. I think that abortion is a necessity in life and should be available, safe, and legal for everyone. Thank you.
So Christopher, what did you think?
I thought that Jihoon had a very good organization throughout her speech. Her preview was clear and concise right there in the beginning, and it broke down how she was gonna go about her presentation. Her use of statistics and information was all throughout her presentation. I felt like sometimes it may have been like an overload of information. It'd be pretty difficult for me to go back and state some of the statistics that she used, but when she was using them in the speech, they were related to her topics. She doubled back a lot to talk about things that she set up in the beginning of her speech, which I thought was effective. She lost her place at times, but it didn't stop her from being on track. Moving around the stage, she seemed very confident. It didn't look like she was nervous at all. Her intensity in the speech, her ability to really put emphasis on things that were powerful, the abortions or the effects that it had on people, seemed to lack in some areas, but it didn't stop from presenting. It didn't take away from the information that she was presenting too much, and her conclusion, recapping everything that she went over, was very good.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe the opening statement is a little bit awkward as an attention device, but your point of view is clearly expressed, and there's a good preview, so we know what's coming up. On organization, I think Christopher's right that it's well organized, but I do think that you are overemphasizing some of the organizational structure. It becomes kind of mechanical the way you said, and then there's these three things, and then there's these three things, and let me talk about this one thing, and then and it needs to have a little bit more naturalistic flow. You spend time defining the trimesters, and I think you need to explain a little bit more why that matters. At one point, you do have a good statistic about when the abortions occur, and I think that means that there is a value to having that definitional information. But I'm not sure that it was necessary to have that definition separate. That probably would have been perfectly fine to include when you were presenting the information about the frequency of abortions in those different periods of time. There are a couple of examples that you use to kind of develop a sympathy for people in the negative situations that you're talking about. There's good statistical information that you present during the presentation. I thought that worked pretty well. I do think maybe you hurt your cause a little bit by when you talk about the ratio of babies born to babies aborted. That seems like it's probably bad optics for the argument that you're presenting to use that phraseology, because if you put it that way, and if that's the way we look at it, then you say, well, 70,000 women die having abortions, and around the world, and that means 4.3 million babies die when women have abortions. It seems like it's an unfair trade-off there. If we were doing it just as a statistical comparison, and you're going to go with that equivocation, that like I said, represents a potential drawback to people who see abortion as a moral evil. I did think that you came up with a couple of hypothetical examples and actual examples to illustrate the points that you're talking about. The example of the girl in Ohio and the situation that she's in, and the example of the woman in Losetho are illustrations of some of the complications that occur. Of course, these are, outliers, and it's always dangerous to reason from the outlying situation. For example, there's one place where you describe the abortions that occur that are a result of, the baby having severe abnormalities or the mother being at the risk of death. Most of the time, those are not the kinds of abortions that people are objecting to. Let's face it, if the baby is dead or will be dead once it's born, people don't see that the same way as they see somebody terminating a pregnancy, like you said, in the 13th or 14th week, and they see that as being problematic. That's probably the least controversial part. Although there is an argument to be made that said later abortions, when they occur, you need to kind of talk about why they are occurring, and that there might be objections to those abortions, and you could be addressing those by using some of the information that you've got there. All right, thank you.